What's up guys, welcome back to the Commander's Lair for another video. Today I'll be sharing with you guys my Omnath Locus of the Roil deck. This was actually the first Commander deck I ever built after I got back into Magic. I did a draft with my friends and then they were all playing Commander and I bought myself the Sahili Precon. And then I wanted to build my own deck, so I spent like 15 hours just tinkering with this deck and I managed to come up with this. I was originally doing the Gruul one, but then I changed it to the Teamer one, and then I ended up with this. It's a lands deck that has a strong theme of elementals, so it's kind of more elementals than lands, but it sort of does both of them, kind of blending them together in like an elementals and lands kind of tribal theme. It definitely is a tribal deck. This is a little less budget than the rest of my decks. It's about $80 at the time of recording. I actually just bumped it down because a lot of the cards I put in here went up in price a lot. The deck was about 160. So I got rid of a lot of those cards. And I've got it back down to $80. The two kind of expensive cards still in this deck are Icon of Ancestry and Vanquisher's Banner, which basically both are Lord effects with a bit of kind of card draw and selective draw on them. So if you want that, you can kind of swap them out for Anthem or Lord effects, or other just card draw effects if you want to take this deck down another $10-ish in price. Otherwise, though, Omnath Locus of the Roil is 1 and then Teamer for a 3/3 elemental. When it ETBs, it deals damage to any target equal number of elementals you control, and whenever a land ETBs, put a 1/1 counter on an elemental you control, and if you control 8 or more lands, you draw a card. So, that first ability is alright, we don't really deal with it too much. Generally, it only does 1 damage, which is okay for pinging someone's bird. Although late game, if Omnath dies, you can replay him and do 5 or 6 damage, hit someone, or just destroy like a value piece for their board. It's not too bad. And then the second ability, obviously that 1/1 counter is decent. It's nice incremental value. It does definitely add up, especially some of our big effects can actually turn like Omnath into a one-shot. Otherwise, the draw is probably the most powerful ability he has. It's quite easy to get eight or more lands in a Landfall deck, obviously, so drawing a card each time is just really nice value. It's just constant card draw, maybe 1 to 2, 3 extra cards a turn. Sometimes even more, depending on what we do. You can. There have been turns where I've genuinely drawn my entire deck. I've actually milled myself out once using this deck through Omnath's ability. But that's kind of the general theme, is just playing out those lands, getting the elementals, buffing them up, and doing some counter shenanigans to get them trample, or just so many giant elementals you can swing through for damage. Now onto the ramp, playing lots of general ramp cards like Cultivate and Harrow that just gets off lots of land triggers, because obviously in a landfall deck that's useful because we get additional value. And cards like Fertile to do this perfectly. It's 2 and a green for a 0/0, it has 2 1/1 counters. It's an elemental as well, so it's got value there. You can pay 1 and a green, remove a counter, target plays such a library, a basic, puts that on the battlefield tapped and shuffles the library. So what this ends up being is the counters negate, so it ends up being 2 mana, get a basic tapped and draw a card. So as much mana as we have, if we have 10 mana, that's 5 draw and 5 counters, which is just great. And then the 5 lands obviously we can use next turn. It's just incredible value, and it also ends up being just 2 mana draw a card as well, which is just great. From the Ashes is 3 and a red for a sorcery, destroy non-basics. For each land destroyed this way, it's control my search Hazel library for a basic land put on the battlefield. Then each player search Hazel library this way shuffles it. So this Animist Awakening are those massive kind of like game-winning turns. Also work as a ramp card. Or just at least ETB trigger cards. So, but I don't count. I hate land destruction. Obviously, it's frowned upon in this format. I don't think this counts because as long as your opponent's running a decent amount of basics, this doesn't do anything to them. And you can cast at the end of your turn if you've used 8 mana and you've got 4 remaining. You use the last 4 to do this. You sack them on basics. You get them back as basics untapped. You can use all the mana all over again. And then you can have a big, massive explosive turn because you've just got, so let's say 5, 6, 7, 8 mana. You've just drawn 8 cards. You've really set up for a massive turn there. That's the same with Animist Awakening. X and a green for a sorcery. Reveal the top X card to your library. Put all lands from among them onto the battlefield. Tap the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Spell Mastery. If there are 2 or more instant lands or sorcery cards in your graveyard, untap those lands. So, Spell Mastery I've never not cast this with Spell Mastery. It's not hard to get. It ends up, so generally, obviously we have lots of mana in this deck, so it's not too difficult to pump 20 mana into this. So let's say it's 20, reveal the top X cards your library, put all lands, so obviously we get those lands. We should get maybe 10 to 15 lands, so that's 10 to 15 lands. You give a creature, say plus 15, and then you draw 15 cards. and then all those lands are untapped. So you've just drawn 15 cards, you've just got 15 mana, and you've got a massive board state, you've got a big creature. It's not hard to win this game from these. So these kind of double up their modal, they're ramp cards, and they're also game enders, which is just great because it really weaponizes the deck and adds another level and layer to that whole offense that we have going with the elementals. And again, now we've got all these lands entering, so just as I've said before, whether we get like 1 to 2 a turn extra, or just the one we're playing, or one of these massive effects that gives us 20 lands in one turn, all these effects are going to make it much better. Rampaging Balos, 4 green for a 6/6 creature beast with trample. Whenever an ETB or a land ETBs, you get a 4/4 beast creature token. So this basically turns those into every turn you get a 4/4, at least one, sometimes 2 to 3 4/4s, and then on some explosive turns you can get, 20 4/4s. This is just a massive game ender in this deck. It's very easy to win games if you get this out and you get generally one other turn. You can pretty much win. Take your Benthic Druid's more value-based. It's 3 and Simic for a 3/3. When in a land ETBs, you draw a card and gain a life. So that gain a life is great. It's not important, but it's just nice value. And that draw a card is the same as Omnath. Just as I explained with his ability, you just constantly keep drawing cards. It's really nice value. You just keep going throughout the entire game. And then you can obviously get that one swing turn where you just draw a ridiculous amount of cards. Mina and Den Wildborn is 2 and Gruel for a 4/4. You can play an additional land of each your turn, so this helps trigger the other abilities, and it helps triggers Omnath, because it can turn Omnath into a draw 2 cards a turn. And it can turn these into obviously incredible. And you can pay a Gruel and return land from your to an owner's hand, and target creature can trample end of turn. So if anything else, you can just pay the Gruel, bounce the land, and then just replay it for the card draw, for the 4/4, for the other card draw, for any effect that we have in the deck going on. Or you can give a massive creature trample, one of those 4/4s, or one of your 15/15 elementals, or your 20/20 elementals, and just do this to your entire board and really get a nice setup going. And just use our lands for lots of value for game ended and just general things that can get us through the deck and keep our pieces and engine running. As I mentioned in this deck though, this is an elemental deck. It's not just about those lands. When we're playing lots of elementals and buffing them up through massive tribal effects and getting great value and mostly winning through that, as opposed to those other cards which are just great win cons that enable these. Ghostly Flicker is 2 in a blue for an instant. Exile 2 artifact creatures and all lands you control and return to the battlefield under your control. So can do so many things in this deck. It can protect some of our key pieces like that Icon of Ancestry. Make sure it stays alive, or protect Omnath, or protect our biggest creature. Or what we can do as well is we can flicker our lands. So if we flicker 2 lands, Omnath's on the board, that ends up being draw 2 cards. So 3 mana draw 2 in a pinch is great. Instant speed, this is just really useful. It has so many other ways to use it. For example, another way you can flicker Omnath, and when he enters again, you deal damage to the amount of elementals you have. If you've got, 15 elementals out, that would be 15 damage. Works really well. Incandescent Soul Stoic is a bit of it's a kind of silent achiever in this deck. It's always better than you expect it to be. It's 2 in a red for a 2/2 elemental shaman. Gives all your elementals +1/+1, so it's a lord effect, which is nice. 1 in a red, and you can tap it to put an elemental creature out from your hand into play. It gives haste and sacrifice at the end of turn. We have some really, really big beaters in this deck that don't require any counters to be put on it to get some value. We also have some ETB effects, so both of these it can just be nice to get paid 2 mana instead of paying 7 to 8 for these big effects. You can pay 2 mana. And we only need it for 1 turn because we can win in that 1 turn with Incandescent Soulstone. Kindred Summons is 5 green. This will be the best of those synergies that we have to play with our elementals and the tribal parts. It's an instant, so you can choose creature type, reveal cards on top of your library until you reveal X creature, a creature of the chosen type, or X the amount of creatures you control of that type, and put those cards on the battlefield, then shuffle the rest of the revealed cards into your library. So the best way I'm going to explain what this deck does is when I was using Zendikar's Roil, and I wasn't drawing too many good cards. I had Omnath out. I also had I had a couple of other good pieces out. What the other one being like just kind of constantly just playing lands is how I did it. You keep playing lands, you get lots of 2/2s, right? I think I had 8 2/2s. Then on the ends, because it's got instant speed, on the on step before my next turn, I cast this, and I got 6 of the biggest cards in the deck, and I immediately killed everyone. I think I won turn 5, because I cheated Kindred Summon to play early, because I had lots of those lands, as I mentioned. And it was a turn 5 win with Kindred Summons. It was just ridiculous. And so that's one of the amazing cards in this deck. There's just so many avenues to win and so many avenues of play, and these synergies really help our elementals and just get lots more value. So now I've been talking about all these elementals. I'm gonna say what some of them are. So we've got kind of some main categories for them. We've got some of the big guys that get massive, get lots of counters on them, have lots of power and toughness, and just swing out. Cards like Zendikar and Khan, it's 2 in the Gruul for a star 4 elemental, and its power is equal to the number of lands you control. So it's not rare for this to be a 15-4. And then also, again, obviously, as I mentioned before, you can buff it up with many other effects like Incandescent Soulstoke, or any of the heaps of effects use Omnath counters. This isn't really hard to get this to a one-shot kill, which is then benefited by some of the finishes elementals we have, like Thicket Crasher. 3 and a green, it's a common from M20, it's 4/3 Elemental Rhino. It has Trample, and it gives other elementals you control Trample. So giving you our whole board of massive elementals Trample is incredible value. The only issue with this is that with all these creatures, they have different powers and toughnesses because we aren't making tokens or anything. So the board gets really hard to track because we've just got so many massive creatures that it's hard to keep up. Risen Reef is the last kind of category. It's like value kind of based elementals that really just progress the deck, while also possibly being attackers later on if we can buff them up enough. It's 1 green and a blue for an elemental, 1 of Risen Reef for another elemental ETBs. Look at the top card of your library. If it's a land, put it onto the battlefield. If you don't put the card into the battlefield, so you put it into your hand. So if it's not a land, you put it into the battlefield. So it's either way. Whenever an elemental ETBs, you draw a card. At the very least, it's draw a card plus actually because you put it onto the battlefield as a land, so it's even better than drawing a card. And you don't even have to reveal it either, because and so this is just great. This is one of the best cards in the deck again, honestly, just for value wise. It's incredible. Just constantly being able to put those into your hand, just drawing constantly, drawing off tokens, or just drawing off any of the ones we play, because we're just constantly playing elementals every turn, drawing cards, getting lands, just helping the entire deck, progressing it through, just by doing what our theme is. Thank you guys so much for watching. This concludes what my first deck ever was. I'm sure you guys can see this. It's actually a really powerful deck, because just so many of the cards just work so well with Omnath. Or just with each other, those elemental synergies, and just constantly you just get crazy value. You just draw your entire deck with so many counters and everything. Get just a massive complex board state with so many creatures on it that you can just swing out at anyone. You don't even need politics or anything in this deck. Omnath has all the card draw you need, but we've already packed it through with so much more card draw, so you constantly have cards in hand, so many lands going to the battlefield, getting so many triggers. This deck works so well. And then in addition, with all those payoffs we have for the landfall mixed with the elementals, I thought this would be a difficult challenge because it's elementals and lands and like a mixing of the themes, but it just works incredibly. If you guys would like to know how I would power up the deck, I could do a video on this, but I probably won't unless you guys want me to. Either way, let me know in the comments if you want to know how I power up the deck by adding some more budget to it, because with an extra $60-ish, this deck gets crazy, like insane. Or if you want me to do a less budget version or more budget version with just a lower cost overall, I can do that as well. Just let me know what you guys would like to see. Or again, let me know another theme or command that you'd like me to do in another video. And I can make you a deck list. I'll put a whole video up explaining how the video works and what the deck does. Either way, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you on the next time. Make sure you like and subscribe.